Hey, welcome back to the show. It's Carlos Cavallo from datingadviceguru.com. Today's hot topic du jour is how to stop being needy and insecure and desperate with guys. And of course, before we get started, do the big three really quick. Like the video, make sure you subscribe, and turn on notifications. Super important, so you make sure you know when the next video comes out. Oh, and don't forget to stick around to the end, because number 7 tip that I'm giving you is awesome. Have you ever accidentally gone off the deep end with your guy? Maybe you started feeling a little bit too needy and you realized you might have panicked. Maybe you called him late one night after a glass or two of Merlot and you spoke from your heart and scared him off. Maybe you sent him a text or an email where you spilled your guts about how you know he's the one for you. Well, neediness and clinginess is one of those things that all women show from time to time. Hey, you know what? We've all done it. Even guys do this. But typically, you don't know if you're overdoing it, and typically what you see are the results of your desperation before anything else. And I'll confess to you right up front that I was a huge wuss back in my early 20s. I was really needy, insecure, and very clingy, which for a guy is about the worst and most unattractive thing imaginable. Of course, as soon as I realized what I was doing, I got to work on fixing it, and then I was suddenly able to see this neediness in others, especially in other women. So what are some of the signs you're too needy, insecure, or desperate? Well, if you text him a lot during the day, where a lot is more than 10 different times, if you find yourself giving a lot more than you get, usually hoping that you'll make him see what a great catch you are, you act desperate, you act jealous, mistrusting, and generally anxious a lot around him. You get nervous when he doesn't text you back right away. You push to get him to affirm his feelings for you. You ignore mistreatment by him and let you yourself be treated like a doormat. You overanalyze him on social media. You don't trust him, and he's never really given you reason not to. And of course, you tend to move really fast in relationships to get a commitment. All of those are huge signs, and I could probably list 1,000 more. The point is, how do you stop? Well, don't be needy. Tip number 1, no more time travel. Most people who get needy find themselves thinking out into the future, right? They do a little time traveling where they've got this perfect relationship with this guy, and they start to think about wedding dresses and bridesmaid colors before the end of the first date. You got to avoid jumping out into the future like this. It takes a guy a while to decide if a woman is the one for him. A woman can know if she's found a pretty good prospect right away, but a guy takes some time, so give him time. Don't be needy. Tip number 2, have an if-then plan. You need to understand what you're going to do if you run into a situation that normally triggers your insecurities. Most people respond to life on, I call it an ad hoc or reactive basis. That means that when something comes up, they just act out of their reflexes. For example, if he doesn't call you tonight, what are you planning to do? Most women will wait until that event, that triggering event happens, and then they just let their current emotional state run the show. You got to be better than this. You got to know exactly what you're going to do. Have a plan. Maybe turn on Netflix, distract yourself with a show, or call up a girlfriend, but have a plan for when it happens. Don't be needy. Tip number 3, pump up the volume. The best way to keep yourself out of the needy and desperate trap is to make sure you're always aware of your own value. Most women who fall into the trap of getting too clingy with their man, they did that because they felt weak and disempowered. You have to keep the volume of your own life up loud to keep yourself aware of your own gifts. Keep a list of your good traits on hand to help soothe you when you run into a low mood and you're feeling insecure. Don't be needy. Tip number 4, no more waiting. One of the things that really activates neediness and desperation is the wait factor. This is the time in between dates where you're waiting to get on with it, right? But you know you won't look like a valued woman if you're too available. So you wind up playing this back and forth with your emotions, trying to keep yourself from acting too needy. So instead of that, get on with your life. Don't put your life on hold for anyone or anything. Don't be needy. Tip number 5, keep your priorities. This one's really simple, but it might not be easy for you. Plainly stated, don't drop everything for a man. Now, I know it's tempting. Maybe he called you up at the last minute with an offer to meet him for dinner. Maybe he has a friend that backed out on him in the last moment. So why the heck wouldn't you say yes? Well, there's actually a bunch of reasons why not. Because by saying yes to that offer, you're training him that he can just use you as his last-minute girl. If someone backs out on him, you don't want to be the consolation prize. Plus, it's showing that you weren't his first pick for the date. That's probably the worst way to start off with a guy. All right, don't be needy. Tip number 6, say no. Yeah, I know. Sometimes, my lady, you gotta speak your mind. Being too agreeable will signal the end times for you and your man. I'm sure you don't want to seem difficult to get along with, but you don't want to be too agreeable. Watering down your opinions is not attractive to a guy. If a guy comes across as being too agreeable, you'd probably be really suspicious, wouldn't you? Remember, no man wants a woman who can't think for herself, unless he's a total raving psychotic control freak, in which case the next 20, 30, 40, or 50 years of your life would be hell. So be glad you found out now. Don't be needy. Tip number 7, know how to connect. Look, the best advice I can give you is to not stop doing something, right? I'm not going to tell you to stop doing things, because if you could have stopped those things, you would have. And you probably know that by now. The real thing you got to do is avoid having to put yourself in a situation where you're always the one trying to make him fall for you. Remember, you should not have to work to make a man fall in love with you. As the saying goes, it should be as easy as falling off a log. You want to be able to make a real connection with a man on a deep emotional level. That's the one thing that will assure you that he will not only fall in love with you, but stay with you faithfully right to the very end. And there's only one way to do this, and it's to know what his connection code is. A man's connection code is the special way that he bonds with a woman. If you know what his code is, you can then unlock his heart. If you don't know what his code is, you could be guessing for years and years and never really get into his love. If you want to find out how that connection code really works with men, go on over to datingadviceguru.com/connection code. That's datingadviceguru.com/connection code. But psst, open up a new browser window. YouTube hates it when you leave. This is Carlos Cavallo from datingadviceguru.com. Of course, make sure you do those big 3 that I talked about. Number 1, like the video. Great stuff. Number 2, subscribe. And number 3, turn on notifications, that little bell icon below the video, to make sure you know when the next video comes out. And as always, live and love with passion.